A glimpse into the lives of artists, authors, and influencers, discussing sincere moments, shareable stories, and unfiltered memories. Let's take a snapshot with Mary DeMuth. When we hear the word prostitute, there's a stigma associated with it. Some of the words that come to my mind are brokenness, dirty, abused, worthless. Did the people in Bible times have that same thought or ideology about prostitutes?
Yes, it's a pretty universal thing. And again, I don't. When I wrote this book, I didn't have a time machine to go back and interview people and be on the spot, and talk to them. But yes, definitely. And the sad thing is it's very similar today as it was back then. We wrongly think, oh, those prostitutes want to be prostitutes, and actually, in a majority of the world, they've been trafficked. They're the first trafficking victims, and so even in the New Testament, you have prostitutes. A lot of times, those are trafficked women or women that they didn't, as little kids think, when I grow up, I want to be a prostitute. They were a victim of circumstances beyond their control, or maybe they were married and their husband died and there was no one to take care of them, or something happened, or a husband issued a certificate of divorce, and as a woman in that culture, there was no way for them to make a living, and this was the way they could care for their children or whatever, but they still had that stigma. And so when the prostitute who loved much came into Simon's house, and who's this Pharisee, and she's like, woo, she unbinds her hair, which in biblical times is the same as if when we're having an interview, I take off my shirt. Like that's how, horrendous and wild that is. So for the disciples, they're probably freaked out, but the Pharisees are really freaked out because to unbind your hair is a big fat deal. She unbinds her hair and she weeps and she cleans his feet that haven't been cleaned by the Pharisees who were there. And she lavishes her love. And for them, in a Jewish culture where it's all about whether you're clean or you're unclean, and you have ceremonial washing, and here's this dirty woman cleaning the feet of Jesus. It's a very interesting paradox. And Jesus says to his host, I came here and I had dirty feet and you didn't wash it. And here's this unclean woman, and yet she has made me clean. She has prepared me for burial, and she breaks this, this vial over his feet, which must have cost her everything. You think about when Jesus talks about the widow's mite, or the woman who gave so much, like there's, oh, here I can throw out all my money to you, Lord, and it looks like a whole lot, but these 2 little pennies were everything that widow had. And this woman who is despised and rejected and maligned and marginalized is at the feet of Jesus, pouring everything out to him. And he just loves her. And she must have, after she did it, she was so overcome with how great Jesus was, and she's doing this, there must have been a realization in her of like, what have I done? And probably, this kind of realization, looking around like, oh my gosh, I just did that. And he was so gentle and so kind and so sweet with her that she, he praised her. And so the preaching of the gospel is going to remember her. And so what a beautiful picture of Jesus just loving people that the Pharisees considered bad. And what a great lesson for us, that we can remember that Jesus, as Mother Teresa once said, he's on the distressing disguise of the poor. So we need to find him in those places.